So I'm here at the Trustees of Reservations Monument Mountain property. You can see I got the map behind me. It's just off of US 7. You can hear the cars probably going by behind you. You can see I've also got my pack here. I'm going to be treating this like it's a practice hike for my AT hike. Monument Mountain is a fairly steep climb. There's no climbing, but there's a lot of very steep hiking. I have my hiking poles off here to the side. Monument Mountain itself is pretty well known in the area. I believe it's considered the most climbed mountain in the Berkshires, not New England, but in the Berkshires. There were a series of writers and poets. William Cullen Bryant wrote the poem Monument Mountain. Herman Melville and Nathaniel Hawthorne very famously took shelter in a cave up there and came up with the idea for several of their works during their talks while they were taking shelter. So we'll take a hike up and see where it goes. So the route that we're going to be taking, make sure the camera can see it. Yep, what we're going to be taking, we're here at this entrance. Going to be taking the Hickey Trail to Inscription Rock, follow the Peeskawso Peak trail. Hopefully I'll have the energy to go up to Devil's Pulpit. You'll see what I mean when I get there. Meet up with the Mohican Monument Trail and come back to the parking lot. It's about a 2.5 mile hike. I've been averaging about an hour and a half. Unlike other properties, I've actually been here before, so I am familiar sort of with all the little landmarks. So this should be fun. There's also a couple other trails at this reservation that I'm not going to be going on, namely the back end of the Mohican Monument Trail, as well as the Crossover Trail and Willows Trail up here, up to Flag Rock. I might make a future video about them, but for now, this is where I'm going to go. Let's head on out. The lot here, it's holds a pretty fair amount of cars. There's a little plaque here explaining, the Monument Mountain was originally a sacred site of the Mohican Nation, the Stockbridge-Munsee people specifically. There's a couple of pictures of the recent natives who have visited, indigenous peoples who have visited. And the trustees has been sort of working with the Mohican people to, give this information out. I'll point out where the monument of Monument Mountain is, but it's not actually on trail, so it'll just be on the back end. Because of its association with Herman Melville, it's also part of the Melville Trail, which is a series of properties related to Herman Melville, like his home, Arrowhead, and so on. So, we got a little oriental beetle here. The bugs have not been that bad here, all things considered. Once we get up above, I forgot to stop my watch. Once we get up above about 1,100 feet, we're at about 950 here, bugs basically disappear. Even though it rained pretty heavily last night, there just haven't been that many bugs, which has been great. I've been trying to hike Monument a couple times a week because it's a really good practice. So Hickey Trail here is yellow blazes. The trail is pretty well blazed. There's a couple of points where another blaze could be used, but right now we're not at that point. And the point where I've noticed it is really more like it's this type of trail. It's very obvious where the trail is. So we'll see what that is as we go along. The The more astute among you may have noticed I'm using new hiking poles since I made my Borderland video. Yeah, as it turns out, I was pretty wrong about my assumptions about hiking poles. There are in fact carbon fiber hiking poles. I've got them. And they're light as heck. They're great. And they're definitely going to be really useful on the incline here. I used these the other day. Well, I used my older aluminum ones the other day. And the whole time I was thinking to myself, geez, how long have I not been using these just because I think they're not necessary? Yeah, they're not necessary, but they're super helpful. Excuse me. I think I'm leaning down and pointing at the ground. I apologize. I actually met the guy who put in all this gravel, and they're an ecologist for Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation now, and they came up here a couple weeks ago because there's a nesting peregrine falcon. I forgot my camera. There's a nesting peregrine falcon just off Devil's Pulpit. So I got to talk to him. Jesse is his name. Guess he worked for the trustees a long time ago. I feel like I should angle the camera upward. I'll do that. There. You probably remember in some of my earlier videos that I freak out over big rocks. Love it. I love this place so much. There's another property nearby called Bartholomew's Cobble. There's also a big rock like this. If I read my research correctly, this is almost entirely the result of glacial activity, and almost all the rock up here is quartz or marble with some granite scattered between. I don't know if you can hear it yet, but we're coming up on a small stream. It doesn't have a name, but it is spring fed. And further upstream there's a waterfall, so that's neat. And with the rains, it's running very healthily. Unlike all my videos where I've been complaining about not getting enough rain. I'm gonna go just a hair off trail so you can see this a little better. That's not the waterfall. That's just because of how well the stream is running. Short break time, yay. Small respite from the incline. Beautiful. Rock is pretty wet. No, those aren't the waterfall either. We're coming up on the waterfall here. Trail goes up that way. We're just going to make a small diversion. You can tell this is a very common diversion just by the soil compaction here. There's this idea floating around that this little cave structure that we're coming up to here is where Hawthorne, Melville, and 4 others took shelter, like I was talking about back at the base, but it's not, and we only know that because there isn't a spring mentioned in any of their writing. Especially during a rainstorm, they would have mentioned, I think most of the people who have looked into this agree that they would have said something. But that said, you know, this is a beautiful feature. This is a lot larger than it's been because of the rain. You have to be really careful right here. This is all sort of washed out. But beautiful. And you know what's the fun part? The trail actually goes right up along there. So we're going to be going right over the top of it. And here's the top of the waterfall, just up over the lip. Right over there. Whew. And so it's actually kind of interesting. I'll show you on the map when we get to it because there's one coming up, but so Monument Mountain has 2 peaks. It has the highest elevation point, the Monument Mountain Peak, 1646, I think, feet. And then there's Peeskawso Peak. That's the new name for it. Anyway, since 2019, I believe. Peeskawso Peak is considered a sacred site to the Mohican people. So the trail doesn't actually go up onto it, but rather goes around it. Oop, little guy. They got a little juvenile, let's see, can you even see that? Let's see, right there. A little juvenile eastern newt here. He doesn't like me very much. They're also called red efts. It's the same thing. They when they first hatch, they're orange with those sort of bright orange spots, and then in their adult phase, they sort of turn into this sort of a brownish black with white spots. But it's a good thing that while they're juveniles, they're so bright, really hard to miss, really hard to accidentally step on, because there are tons of those out here. All right, yeah. And then down that way is the Mohican Monument Trail. We came up this way, the Hickey Trail rather. They both come together. Right here, we're gonna take Peeskawso Peak, highest elevation point, go by Peeskawso Peak. Hopefully I'll have the energy for Del's Pulpit, and then back around. Whew. You can tell I'm going the right way because there are these cliff warnings. Because there's some pretty sheer drops once we get up higher. Whew. Right about now is where I always get a little tired. So that actually bodes pretty well for me that I'm getting tired around the same point with all of this weight. Unfortunately, the wildfires from Canada making everything smoky. Probably also why I'm having trouble breathing. The AQI is only in the 50s, so it's not crazy high, but it's not great either. If it gets much higher, I'm gonna actually have to throw on an N95 mask just to protect my lungs and throat. Overlook number 2. Much much clearer view. See the construction they're doing over there. They're repaving US 7. This is one of the portions. There's a bypass over here, but I'd rather scramble both because I need to test how well I can scramble while carrying a pack, but also it's just more fun and you have a better view. Perfect. All right. And here, once I get up to it, here's the summit. Oop. You can see the entire, as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted by my battery dying, from the peak here you can see the entire Housatonic Valley. We've got the eastern portion over here. It's a long drop over this way. The river is actually sort of down in that direction. Housatonic River. And you have, did I say eastern? Western portion. Western portion over there. And the eastern portion over here. And can't really see it now because of the smoke, but if you sort of look over in that direction, you can see the Catamount ski area. Something else that's interesting about this is there's a little arrow that's been carved into the rock here. It points due east, and it's believed that the Mohican people, cigarette butt, the Mohican people who originally lived here carved it, but we don't actually know. There's no records from that time period, so it's hard to know. I mean, certainly there are no writings about someone carving it, unlike down here. I'll show you. There's a bit of a bit of graffiti from the 1800s. Over here, see, if you can see through the trees, I don't want to get down there, but Worcester something 1888, G.G. Benton, EMR, yeah. So, all right. And I'm just going along the eastern face here because the eastern face just has a better view. I know you're not going to be able to see it because I'm not turned in that direction, but highly recommended eastern face if you're not afraid of heights. If you're afraid of heights, stick to the western side. It's forested, you can't see as far down, and if you stick to the path, you won't get dizzy. So just something to be aware of. So we're you can see Peeskawso Peak up here. Let me angle it so the sun's not in your eyes here. Peeskawso Peak Trail, or excuse me, Peeskawso Peak up there is a sacred site to the Mohican people. You can see some people used to go up in that direction, but they don't really want people going up there that aren't affiliated with the tribe, so they put up a little rope and sign to block it off. Okay, so here's the junction. You can continue down the Peeskawso Peak Trail to the Mohican Monument Trail, or head up to the Devil's Pulpit. I'm feeling pretty good, so I'm going to head up to Devil's Pulpit. There's an old unmanned train trail that sort of cuts down in this direction, but you're not supposed to go that way anymore. So, not since the stairwell has been put into place. That's the old way to get up to the Overlook, and you have to climb some rocks to get there. So you're not supposed to go that way anymore. This is the Pulpit Overlook. You can see the Devil's Pulpit here, frame center, a huge freestanding rock formation. And actually along this face over here, I don't think they're there now, but one of the peregrine falcon juveniles was nesting over there. I don't hear them, so I imagine they're not there right now. Peregrine falcons are pretty noisy. Now, getting down from the pulpit, this is the part that could use more blazes. There's one down there, but like one here wouldn't go amiss either. It's very easy to accidentally sort of go down that way, and then it's just a sharp drop. So you have to kind of slide down on your butt. Whew. Oh boy. And now to get back to the lot, we're going to take the rest of the Peeskawso Peak Trail to the Mohican Monument Trail. Take that for a little bit. And then we'll be back at the lot. I'll have to make sure to point out the monument of Monument Mountain on my way by. Because like I said, it is both not obvious, all three things I guess, not obvious, off trail, and not marked or signed. It's at this portion of the hike every single time I always think, yeah, it was really tired on the way up, really tiring on the way up, but it's worth it. Because especially once you get on the backside of the mountains, you can't really hear the road sounds anymore, which is great. So you can really sort of disconnect for at least a little while. Okay, so we're back down where Mohican Monument meets Peeskawso. So Peeskawso breaks off. Whoop, there you go. The route that I recommend is all the way up. So they come down this way, all the way up to Inscription Rock, and Peeskawso Peak back. We're here, we're going to be heading back to the parking lot now, which is a fairly gentle downhill the whole way. And I know, I'm other than that first portion that took quite a while, other than the ascent that took quite a while, I know I am kind of flying through this. I would advise anyone looking to come to Monument, take your time, like take more time than I did. We're coming up on 1 hour and 3/4. Probably wrap up in about 2 hours. I think that's probably the longest I've taken on this hike. Although that does not account for the fact that I stopped and recorded video along the water and at Devil's Pulpit Overlook and all that. So regardless, right, I'd recommend block out at least 2 hours to 2.5 hours. Just take your time. Sorry, that was my camelback thing. You know, take your time, really take in the sights. I've been up here a bunch of times, so I almost wonder, there's 2 miles, I almost wonder if you know, I'm missing pointing something out that, you know, I was amazed at the first time, but I've seen so many times it's now just sort of the norm. I've tried to do my best to point out most of the big landmarks, but you know, this is definitely a hike you want to take your time on. All right, so we reached this junction. This is how you see the monument. You reach the junction here. Not, let's see. Yeah, so not this first marker, not this first blaze, but the second one, or maybe it's this one. Oop. No. Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's the next trail blaze. Let's see. Up. Ah, yep. You get to this second trail blaze. You turn about 100 degrees. And you can see, let me see if I can get, basically frame center. You can just see the top of the pile of rocks. And that's the monument. Just barely see it from here. Yeah, Monument Mountain. Highly recommended. A little bit of trash, but we'll take care of that. Oh, I'm tired. Well, I don't feel like putting my selfie stick back on, so I'm not going to do a third person outro. So you can barely see my reflection. I don't know if it's showing up on the video. Highly recommended. The trustees do a great job maintaining the trails here. So as always, you know, take only photographs and leave only footprints. And wherever you go, happy trails.